As you can see from the title of this lesson, this tutorial is about conversions and what we call dimensional analysis. There are a lot of names for what we're going to undergo in these next two tutorials and talk about for the rest of this chapter. Conversions, dimensional analysis, factor label method, or what I will call bracket problems most often, are all ways that we use that are allowing us to change the type or magnitude of a unit. For instance, earlier in the chapter we talked about the way we measure length, and we said the most common way was through the meter. Sometimes meters isn't an appropriate way to measure a distance. If, for instance, I'm traveling from here to California, right? I would want to use miles. I would want to use kilometers, right? So we need to be able to change the type of unit or how big or small the unit is. Now, I have this written up on the board, but you guys were given this particular sheet in class, but I like to have it up here to refer to it, where it gives us common conversion factors that let us change the magnitude. Certain prefixes are valued with certain numbers. For instance, pico, the prefix, is worth 1 times 10 to the 12th in terms of a number size. So 1 meter has 1 times 10 to the 12th picometers. 1 times 10 to the 9th nanometers is 1 meter. And if you notice, pico, nano, micro, and milli are all small, right? Those are ways we shrink numbers, so it takes a lot of those, 1 times 10 to the 3rd, to equal 1 meter. Two things I want you to understand about how this worksheet works. First, 1 times 10 to the 3rd, most often, I will simply list as 1,000. So on your worksheet, I would even scratch out 1 times 10 to the 3rd and write 1,000, just because scientific notation is a little excessive, right, for shrinking us down to that number. Second, right, the word meters here is interchangeable with any other measurement unit that we have. For instance, 1 times 10 to the 12th picometers equals 1 meter. Just as similar, 1 times 10 to the 12th picoliters equals 1 liter. 1 times 10 to the 12th picograms equals 1 gram. Okay? 1 times 10 to the 12th pico Mr. Vicini's equals 1 Mr. Vicini. So you notice it's not the unit that's important in terms of figuring out what's going on, it's that prefix, pico, right? Which means it's that number, and we can change the latter part of it. And that confuses people sometimes as we go through. So the whole idea behind what we want to learn here in this tutorial is about conversions. The good news is you do conversions all the time. For instance, you go out to a Shenango game on Saturday night, or you watch some college football or pro football, and I could ask you a simple conversion question. For instance, the team scored 6 touchdowns. I want to know how many points that is. Now, most of you, if I say without the extra point, understand what the answer to this already is going to be. Right? But what you don't understand is actually you are going through a method for changing touchdowns into points that we can use as we go through this chapter to change any unit into any other unit that we want. What you are really doing, right, is this. You're saying, if we score 6 touchdowns, I want to know how many points that is. So I develop a relationship between touchdowns and points. And so long as you know what that relationship is, you're able to plug in that conversion factor. Most of you, if I asked, would understand that without the extra point, 1 touchdown is worth 6 points. So if you take a look, we know that 6 times 6 would be 36. And then in math class, anytime you have a variable on the top and the bottom, they cancel. So if this were x and x, they go away. Just like touchdowns and touchdowns cancel, I know that without the extra points, 6 touchdowns is worth 36 points. We are going to take that and we are going to develop a method that allows us to come up with a series of steps for doing any conversion. And usually I simply call this steps to convert. Step one to converting, if you notice what we did, was we take the number that we were given and we put it outside the brackets. A lot of times I will list this as take the number given in unit and put it over 1. Step 2, I drew those parentheses and I put touchdowns on the bottom. So step 2 will be draw brackets and place unit to eliminate on bottom. So I put touchdowns. Step 3 was I put points on the top. That's what I wanted to find out about. So place desired unit on top. And then in parentheses here, I'm going to write if possible. There will be times that we cannot do our conversion in just one step. For instance, instead of asking you to go from touchdowns to points, if I asked you to go touchdowns to field goals, some people may have trouble figuring out how many field goals 6 touchdowns are. So what they would do is they would convert touchdowns to points and then go points into field goals because they didn't know that a field goal was worth half of a touchdown, so to speak. So what happens is they take one conversion they know and follow it with a second one that relates to it. So we place the desired unit on top, if possible in one step, but if not, in multiple steps. Step 4 was I canceled out my units, right, and I did the math. And I call this do the math, and then I just want you to realize you multiply the top and you divide the bottom. And then last but not least, we always pay attention to our sig figs in our units. We make sure we have the appropriate number of sig figs in units as we go through. So these are the steps that we will undergo and try to follow these to do a bunch of different conversions. Now, I'm going to take this board and I'll slide it out of the way, but I'm going to keep bringing it back just like you'll have to bring your worksheet back anytime we're looking for a conversion that lets us switch from one to the other. First question I want to take a look at would be something like this. If I have 5 kilometers, I want to know, question mark, how many meters is that worth? So I'm going to try to follow our 5-step method. Step 1 says take the number given and place it over 1. So I'll take my number in my unit, 5 kilometers over 1. Step 2, draw a bracket and place the unit to eliminate on the bottom. So I draw my bracket, and the unit I'm trying to get rid of is kilometers. I don't want to know about that. I want to know about meters. So we put kilometers on the bottom. Step 3, place desired unit on top, right, if possible. we want to put meters on top if possible. To figure out if that's possible, we bring our worksheet back. If it's possible to do this, I need to find one line on this worksheet that has both meters and kilometers in it together. All right, if we start looking, here's picometers to meters, nanos to meters, micros to meters, millis to meters, centis, decis, meters to decas, meters to hectos, meters to kilos. So there's the one we're looking for, and sure enough, it's on one line. That means we'll be able to do the conversion in one step, right? Because meters and kilometers are all on one line. If I were trying to do something like decas to hectos, they're not on one line. I'd have to do it in multiple steps. So according to this, my relationship is 1 times 10 to the third meters, right, is 1 kilometer, which we said is 1,000. So I can put those numbers in here in one step because they're on the same line. If you look back to the worksheet one more time, the number next to the meters is 1,000, so that is what's going to follow meters in our bracket. 1,000 will go on top. And the number next to kilos on our worksheet is 1. So I will put 1 next to kilo. Now, we're going to do the math, right? But right here, I'm just going to insert one other thing so that everybody has it. So add it to your notes. Do the math, but right above that, go ahead and add find correct conversion factor. And then do the math. So you'll find the correct conversion factor, right, and then you'll do the math, right, after you plug it in. And that's what we did here. We found the correct conversion, which was 1 to 1,000, and plugged it in. Now we'll do the math. So if I multiply on the top, 5 times 1,000 gets me 5,000. Right? Divide the bottom, so 5 divided by 1, 1,000 divided by 1 is still going to be 5,000. Last but not least, we do units and sig figs. Kilometers cancels because it's top and bottom, leaving me with meters. And 5 has 1 sig fig. 1,000 will not limit us. Anything that you get from this worksheet, right, or what we call exact numbers. Right? So even though it looks like 1,000 only has 1 sig fig because there's no decimal, we treat it like it's 1,000.000 a million times. It has limitless sig figs. So the number right here is what's going to limit us. 1 sig fig, unlimited sig figs. So 5,000 has to be written with 1 sig fig. There is my 1, right? And as long as there's no decimal, those zeros don't count. So it will be 5,000 meters. Let's take a look at another one. Right, second one, how about we look at 0.75 grams equals question mark kilograms. Again, let's try to follow our steps. Step 1 says take the number given and place over 1. Number given is 0.75 grams. Place it over 1. Step 2, draw brackets and place unit to eliminate on the bottom. Draw my brackets. I'm trying to get rid of grams, so I'll put it on the bottom. It's always canceling opposite. Step 3, place desired unit on top if possible. So we slide this over to our worksheet, and I'm trying to find one line that has kilo and regulars, right? Kilograms and regular grams. Remember, I said the meters here isn't important, right? I can insert anything after. So it's going to take us right back to where we were. 1 kilometer is 1,000 meters is the same as 1 kilogram being 1,000 grams. So there is just one line that has kilograms and grams on it, which means we can put kilograms on top. To make sure we get the numbers into the right place, The number next to kilo on our worksheet is 1, which means next to kilo here will be a 1. And the number next to grams on our worksheet is 1,000, which means this will be 1,000. Right, so I found the correct conversion factor, 1 to 1,000, right, and I plugged it in. Now I need to do the math. So here I'm going to take 0.75 times 1 divided by 1,000. Right? If you get your calculator out, go ahead and do that so you can see what it looks like. 0.75 divided by 1,000. My calc says 7.5 times 10 to the negative 4th. Right? And to put it in scientific notation, if it didn't, right, you can put it into scientific notation. On tests, on quizzes, I'll be very specific about if I want the answer in scientific notation or if I do not care. Right? For these problems, homework problems, things like that, I really don't care if it's anything under the 6th power, if you don't put it in science notation. Last but not least, we look at units and sig figs. Grams cancels, leaving us kilograms. And then we have 2 sig figs here. Doesn't hurt us because it came from the worksheet, which means I get 2 in my answer. So 7.5, the way we have written it, is actually just fine the way it is. So 7.5 kilograms. Third example. Example 3. Let's turn 1.2 meters into micrometers. So we'll slide these off to the left. And we want to take (1.2) meters into question mark micrometers. And that symbol right there, right, is a Greek letter that stands for the word micro. Right? So you will see it at times, right, and understand that it's the prefix mic. All right, so we're going to follow our same steps again. Right? If we were doing this in class, right, I would say take the number given and place it over 1, which means we're going to take 1.2 meters, place it over 1. Step 2, draw the brackets and place the unit to eliminate on the bottom. So I draw my brackets, and I want to get rid of, right, the unit meter. So we put meters on the bottom. Step 3, place desired unit on top if possible. We're trying to go from meters to micrometers. So we have to go to our worksheet and check to see if we can do that in one step. If we take a look, we want to find micro because the word meter is everywhere. Right? Here is micro, and sure enough, on the other side is meter. That's all on one line, which means we are able to do this in one step. So we can put micrometers up there. Step 4, find the correct conversion factor and do the math. According to our worksheet, the number that should go with micro is 1 times 10 to the 6th. So we will put that with our micro. And the number with meter is 1. So we put 1 with meter. Last but not least, we want to do the math. So we multiply what's on top. Right? We divide what's on the bottom. Right? So in my calculator, I have to take 1.2 times 1 times 10 to the 6th. Here is how you do that in your calculator. Right? 1.2, and then the times button, 1, then you hit the second button, and the button above the 7, which is a comma, if you have a grapher, and an E should pop up. Right? 1E, and then put a 6, is 1 times 10 to the 6th power. Right? If you're having trouble with that, ask me while we're going through in class. I'll be more than happy to help you out with that. Right? So you should say 1.2 times 1E6, right? And my calculator spits out 1, 2 with 5 zeros. So it looks like 1.2 million. Right? I would turn this into scientific notation. So we're going to call this 1.2. And then move the decimal to the right. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 times 10 to the 6th. Last but not least, check your sig figs and your units. Right. Sig figs, I have 2 here. Nothing in here hurts us, so I get 2. 1.2 has 2, so we're good there. And then units, meters cancels, micrometers does not, so micrometers is right there. So these are how we do one-step conversion problems. Right? I'll have another tutorial following this one that shows you how we do it if there are 2 steps and we can't do them in 1 step. But one-step conversions will be just like all of the ones we've done right here. If you're having any questions, please come in for some help and I will be more than happy to get things straightened out.